You're listening to Pure 24/7 Radio. It's Dan with you here, and I am very pleased to welcome a special guest for these Christmas shows. Joining me also from Scotland is the person better known as Less Waste Laura, but to us she is Laura Young. Hi, Laura, how you doing?
Hi, and Merry Christmas. I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yes, enjoying all the festivities and having some fun here on the radio as well. So, for those that may have been living under a rock and haven't heard all that's going on, give us a quick summary. Who is Laura Young, this less waste Laura that we hear about?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I do two things. I'm an environmental scientist, that's my day job. So I'm really interested in how we can create a world that is sustainable, that is resilient, so that we can all live in harmony with it. And my research looks at things like flooding, which in the UK is just on the rise. And so I look at how do we actually create places that are great for people, great for the planet, and live alongside nature really well. But I'm also a campaigner, so I do loads of stuff around sustainability. And the Less Waste Laura was born out of a New Year's resolution after, watching Blue Planet and wanting to be more sustainable. And I've got a background, of course, as an environmental scientist, but I do loads of different campaigning around issues like how to reduce plastic, reduce waste, try and be more eco-friendly. And I do that in all sorts of different spheres, whether that's food, shopping, fashion, travel. And I do lots of it online. So I sort of live online as Less Waste Laura, and that's where people can check out the work that I do.
Absolutely. And I guess one of your big successes over the last year was the whole disposable vape thing as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, since the end of 2022, that was a huge piece of the work that I was doing after really stumbling on disposable vapes as litter as this huge new problem, and then went down the rabbit hole of disposable technology. And these are the kind of the poster child for throwaway electronic devices, which is just crazy. And so, yeah, we have been working over the last 2 years to get these banned in Scotland and in the UK, across the whole of the UK, and add to the sort of international efforts. And yeah, 2025, we get that legislation. And so a big win for the environment and also a big win for public health, because we know that that was a huge part of the campaign as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, allegedly being name checked in Westminster and in Hollywood as
Yeah.
well. I think it was the former First Minister. I can't remember which one we were on at the time, but described you as the Vape Crusader was another nickname he went for, wasn't it?
I mean, you've got to love your local paper and the puns they come up with. So the Vape Crusader was the nickname I got. I feel for years I've tried to brand myself as Less Waste Laura, but one local paper headline changed all of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, really great to see that recognition, but it was the best name.
No, absolutely. It's blowing my branding what you're doing. Yeah. But in that list of stuff you mentioned right at the start there, something that's quite important over this Christmas period is food and food waste. It's kind of the time for gluttony, isn't it? We'll just buy all these things in and we don't always eat it. What can we do better with this, Laura?
I know. And I think for context, really from November, it feels like you go into the shops and there's Christmas special items, whether that's chocolates and treats and baked goods, or whether that's all the little canapes and festive specials of cheese boards or whatever it might be. So, it's a time where we get excited because we do see special edition products coming in, and it does feel like a time that the nights have got darker and longer, and you do want those kind of cozy home comforts. But the reality is Christmas time is the biggest time for waste in general, but particularly food waste. And that has a huge impact, right? It's so wasteful. All of those delicious things have been grown and produced and manufactured around the world, and that takes a lot of energy and resources. And so we want to use up as much of it as possible. And you know, in the run up, we might have got excited and bought a wee bit too much, or even on the day, Christmas
Mm.
Day, we've all probably cooked a little bit too much. And I know that I've certainly got leftovers already sitting in the fridge. And so there's loads of stuff that we can do to actually use up a lot of that. And I think this is a great time to be thinking about it. And people probably have the traditional turkey curry. That seems to be a staple in lots of people's households. But actually, there's loads of creative ways to be using up our leftovers. So, curry, stew. Those are always the favorites. But you can also be thinking about delicious soups that you can make with maybe the vegetables that you've got left over. I also know bubble and squeak, but just
Mm.
adding in all the other best bits that you can make is absolutely fantastic. And also just thinking outside the box. So you can make things like Christmas pizzas, where you just put the toppings of all the leftovers on there. And you can also take some of the odds and ends, like if you've got some of your puddings left over, you can actually then make ice cream out of that. So you could make a Christmas pudding ice cream, or you could make a Yule log ice cream. Because often these things, especially the cakes, like after a couple of days, they've dried out. They're maybe not the best, but you could mix them in and make them into a really nice bread and butter pudding or an ice cream. So there are loads of things that we could do with those leftovers to get a bit more creative. And I've even seen people doing things like baking bread and putting in grated bits of the odds and ends of cheeses that they might have had on a cheese board. So there's loads of ways to actually soak up all the goodness of the Christmas food without throwing it away. Because obviously it's environmental, but also we've all spent probably a lot of money on delicious food, and you want to make it go as far as you can.
Yeah, I was struggling with the concept of leftover puddings. I'm not sure what that is, but
Yeah,
that
I know.
that
I mean, some people just have no idea what you talk about when you're saying food waste at Christmas. But I feel we all have something. In my house, it's Brussels sprouts, if I'm honest. That's definitely the thing that's left over.
Oh no, we love a Brussels sprout here. Well, myself and my youngest do love a Brussels sprout. But yeah, this is just okay. If we bought it, I suppose the best thing would be not go buying everything in the shop to start with. Still sticking with what we need. After all, Christmas Day is just a day. It's it's not a whole week, is it? And the shops are not closed. It's not like the days when you need to stock up because the shops are closed for 3 weeks. So yeah, we being more careful in what we buy, and then just being a bit more adventurous in how we do something with that afterwards.
Exactly. And I think that's just something, yeah, you have to ask yourself, is maybe just don't always go for the impulse, especially when you do see the special edition things that we do
Yeah.
get a bit excited for. Just try and plan out a bit more, who's coming over, where are you going, what could you bring round? And then just, yeah, feeling like actually leftovers go a really long way. So you don't need to go crazy with buying way, way, way too much, but actually just saying this is how we could do it. But certainly having those recipes can help because so it doesn't feel like all you're having is turkey curry for a week after Christmas, but you've got a few other options to help use it up, and meaning that we don't have to throw any waste away after the big day.
Yeah, which is a much better way of doing it, and yeah, we can see how we can just be a bit more thinking of the environment in what we do. Because just chucking it away, it's not necessarily, even if we put it in the food bin, it's not necessarily going to be helping the environment at the end of the day, is it? It's depending on how local
No.
authorities deal with these things.
Yeah, and I mean the statistic that kind of shocks me, it's easy to remember. It's that globally, a third of all food is wasted.
Wow.
And if food waste was a country, it would actually be the third largest emitter in terms of kind of greenhouse gases when we talk about climate change.
Mm.
And I mean, the first part of that is because food is wasted at all stages. So there's food that's left on the fields because it doesn't meet the standards that, I love a bit of wonky veg, but
Yeah.
we do have high standards, or the supermarkets think we have high standards. So there's food that's left on the fields that actually isn't taken up. There's then food that's left in the supermarket, so food that's just not bought in time, so it goes past its sell by date, and so it gets thrown away. And although there's some community initiatives happening to try and deal with that, there's still lots that is thrown away. And then it's finally also wasted with us. So it's stuff that we've forgotten about in our fridges. It's things that we don't eat off our plate because we put on way too much. And so food is wasted there. And there's tips actually on how to reduce it, not just with the recipes. The two things that I find really helpful. One of them is, and this is more tricky at Christmas time, I recognize, but when you open your fridge, when you open your pantry or your cupboards that have got things like your bread or your fruit and veg, when you open these things up, you should at a glance be able to see everything. Because actually, often things are just tucked right away at the back because we've got our fridges jam-packed full. And then we just forget what's in there. And by the time you get to it, you think, oh, that's gone bad. And the other thing is, even if it's just a portion of a shelf or a little bit in the door or whatever it might be, have somewhere, particularly in your fridge, that's like a must eat now section. So maybe you've got half of a pepper that you used or half a pot of yogurt or something that you know it's a kind of leftover and you know it's going to go out of date soon. Have a rough area in your fridge that is for things specifically that you know are going to go out of date soon. And you can try and be creative and include them in your next recipe. And it just means that you open your fridge, you can see everything, but you also can take a quick look at that area and think, okay, I need to make sure that I use these things. And that really helps me with my sort of food waste because you don't always buy just what you need. You do always have sort of odds and ends because recipes don't always use full jars or full bottles of whatever it may be. And that's helpful. And I think that it's good because these are things that have been produced. People have been involved in the producing of all of this. And of course, it has an impact on the planet. But those are some, yeah, really good tips that have certainly helped me out in the past.
That's really, really good stuff. And of course, the internet is full of other influencers now who are doing lots of stuff with food waste. And I've often seen them on cooking programs as well, when they're literally using the whole of the product, whatever it may be, to do this. So
Yeah.
just a quick Google search. And for those that are a lot younger than me and know their way around TikTok and stuff, there are
Oh, it's
very
great.
many people showing what to do with food waste now, aren't they? In a good way.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's I found a recipe that uses the whole cauliflower. So you can use the core of it that's normally quite hard. You can use the leaves and you can use all of it in one recipe. The
Yeah.
same with so many other things. It's fantastic. And if TikTok, absolutely, all these social medias. But a really good website is Love Food Hate Waste. And they've got loads of like resources and recipes. And that's a really good first port of call. And then you can, of course, find loads of other creative people who are showing amazing solutions.
Brilliant. Yeah, love food, hate waste. That's a good motto to go into 2025 with anyway, but great that there's that resource there. Laura, that's been really, really helpful. And I'm sure as our listeners are sitting there this afternoon and just munching on another packet of peanuts or reaching for a final slice of Christmas cake or whatever, that we can do something adventurous. And it might be good to hear from listeners. Come on, what different ways have you used your Christmas waste, your food waste? We'd love to hear some of the things that you've been doing. So that'd be great to hear from them. Brilliant. Laura, as listeners are being told, I'm going to be cropping up on the Pure Brunch show from on Tuesdays from 2025. And I think when we find some environmental things, you're going to be cropping up every now and then on the show. And also here's a little teaser for anyone that might be thinking of proposing over this festive period. Laura will be back in the new year. You may have seen stuff on her socials if you follow her anyway, as Laura is getting married in 2025. Congratulations, Laura.
Thank you.
But it's going to be very much a less waste wedding, isn't it? So we may be back to talk about that in the new year. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. I can share all my tips and tricks that I've been learning along the way.
Yeah, goodness knows we all need to do stuff on a budget these days, but if we can save the environment and still have fun and amazing celebration, then that's what it's all about. Laura, thank you for joining us this Christmas time. We wish you a very, very happy Christmas, and we'll look forward to chatting to you in the new year.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Pure 24/7 radio is listener supported, which means we are free, online, and always pure because of the generous support of our listeners. If you would like to contribute financially, please visit pure247radio.org. If you'd like to find out how we use your money, please visit the Our Cost section. Any donation of any size will help keep us on air and broadcasting for free. Thank you.